G'day, hi and welcome. Alright, I'm going to show you guys something. It's starting to look pretty good. You can see a bit of a shine on there. I don't know how well it's going to come out on the camera. Okay, so you can see that the osmosis is kind of coming out a bit. I'm just going over it almost every day or so, and it seems like you go over it and then after a while the gray turns to brown and then it just kind of flakes out. So every time you go over it, it just seems like it loosens it up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and it's coming along. Now I'm going to show you something. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to catch it or not, but can you shine up a boat by hand? Well, that's what I got to do because I don't have access to a pressure washer, and I don't have access to a small buffer. I have a big buffer, but I don't have a small buffer. Oh, look at how shiny that is. Wow. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do with your buffing bonnets when you're done with them. First off, stretch, get down. You see all the osmosis is coming out of there pretty good? It doesn't take long, but anyway, you can take our buffing bonnets. Now, they're usually pretty dusty and stuff like that, so that's wax in there, but something that you could do is, we're always thinking about the big projects that we can do with our boat, but we don't think about the little ones. But just use it as your wipe down rag. Anytime you need to wipe anything down, you know, after you've cleaned the boat off, just use it as your wipe down rag. It naturally is going to retain the wax in it. Okay, and you just give everything a bit of a go over. You want to put another little shot on there from time to time, it doesn't hurt. But you can just, every time. And that way you always have a protection coat on your boat, right? You see, I didn't do up here yet, but I don't know if this will capture it. We'll see if we can. Although it's a lot of elbow grease, it's a lot easier if you have a small hand buffer. But you can see just a little bit of doing that, you can already start to see a shine come in. And if you just keep doing over time, it may never be as shiny as a hand buffer, but it will keep the osmosis off of it, and it'll always be protected. That's the good thing. And the only thing, though, is because these buffers tend to get a little bit dusty, is it's a good idea to sweep off the deck after, or else you're going to have all kinds of dust over everything. But you can use it just to wipe things down, get into the cracks, stuff like that. And the good thing about that is, again, it gives you kind of a dirt rag that you can use. You don't always have to use something good, but it always keeps a layer of wax on there all the time. You can do your windows if you want, but or maybe not. You just hose it down after, but the idea is that you're always buffing the boat all the time. You know what I mean? It's always giving it a fresh coat. Then you just shake it out when you're done. Then sweep it off, and then if you want later on, you know, you just put a drop of polish or wax on it each time you use it. It'll be a little bit less dusty. But you can use this and use it and use it and use it and use it and use it. Doesn't matter if it gets a little more cruddy. Get some of that out of there. Yeah, you'll eventually end up with a really shiny boat. Now, the thing about what I'm talking about here, you see where like the osmosis, where I took pictures like last week where it was, you could really see it. Now you can see it really starting to break off and stuff like that. You can even see it here where it's still under the railing. I won't be able to get the stuff under the railing until I take the railings off, but which I will do as soon as I get some buffing wax. You see here I got a bit of a, I guess it's a little bit dirty or whatever. Wipe it down. Might smear it a bit at first, but every time you go out, whatever, just wipe things down. So you're putting down a small layer of wax every time you go, which again, thing to keep in mind about a boat is that a clean boat is usually a little more slippery, so you have to watch out, but usually means it's going to be a lot cleaner. It means it's slippy, not sticky, and because it, or dull or whatever. What that usually translates to is the dirt doesn't stick to it as well. So the other thing you should do is, what I used to do when I lived on this boat, is, and you can also use it on your chrome pieces too if you want. Just, you know, it's a good idea. Everything gets a coat of wax on it. And the excess residue, like I say, you could sweep off or hose off later. What I used to do in the morning, you could already see the, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but the extra little, just that little bit gave me gave me a nice little shine there. The whole boat's like this. And what that does is, again, it makes sure that things don't stick to it as easy. So it means you don't have to clean it as hard every time. So just go over every part of the boat after you clean it off, you know. Like I say, what I would do is my morning ritual would be get up, first thing I do is sweep the boat, grab the mop, dip it in the water, and just swab the deck. Now sometimes that would make more of a mess than not, but what it would do is the water would constantly loose up any hard chunks, and then over time, as soon as it's dry, you sweep it off or whatever. When you come back or you go out for a sail and you know, basically sweep off and mop the deck, as soon as you'd come back, then the boat never got a chance to really build up any really severe grime, you know, especially like tight spots like around here where it gets bad. I don't have access to a pressure washer, but if I did, this boat would be so gleaming right now, it wouldn't be funny. But just a little bit of elbow grease like that every time you take it out. You can see like there's residue like this, okay? But every time you take it out, you just give it a quick. And like I say, you can apply a little bit extra wax whenever you need to, but most of the time you won't need to because it'll just keep the gel coat up so good. You won't get the same shine you get with a buffer, but if you have, I mean, I've seen some boats out there that just get so chalky and stuff like that. Right there, just doing that, okay, it's like, yeah, there's a little bit of residue, but it won't take much to take that residue off. That's easier to clean than stuff like that. But that's getting easier to clean because every time I do it, you know, if I sweep the boat every time I'm on it, if I wash the boat a couple of times a week, whether it needs it or not, away you go. But you can even use it against the chrome bits. And you can see right here, just doing just that little bit, you can see the extra shine you get on there. Don't want to shake too much, but you get the idea. Get that all. And then things like this that are dull. Again, this is not as chalky as it was, but it's still pretty chalky, but not as chalky as it was. Every time, just go over it. It's a depth sounder cover. Just go over it. Give it a quick wipe down. Before you know it, because a lot of people will replace, like, I'll pull this off here. Here's my depth sounder. They'll grab a cover like that and say, oh, well, look at how bad it is. I'll get rid of it. But if you keep at it and keep cleaning it, it doesn't take long before it becomes actually quite clean. But the other big one is that you're constantly putting a layer of wax like this. I don't know if you could see it, but you can see a bit of a shine just from going like this, right? And you get this bit of a shine. Again, might take you 5, 10, 15 minutes to do the whole boat, just loosely. I mean, you're not going for, you know, Mr. Miyagi here. You're just trying to make it presentable. So you can see there's a shine there. Now, if we look over at this one's a little bit dull. A lot duller, actually. And it's still a little bit dirty, but again, it doesn't take much. Just even a couple of wipes over the boat really quick with a couple of wipes like this. It applies the wax, works the wax in. And presto, you can see how quick that shined up. Well, your whole boat can be like that. And if you're always using something like that, just to kind of like dry buff it, so to speak, it just keeps that nice slippy layer on it. Like I say, the first little bit, the things are pretty full of dust, but it keeps a dry enough layer on it that when you do hose it down after when you're done, or whatever, it takes all the residue off, but it's always smooth, really smooth. And because it's really smooth, heck, even that little residue that's put on there, you can just go like that with your hand, although it makes your hand dirty. That'll be good, but as soon as you get that residue off there's nothing that's going to stick to that. In this boat, you can see there's still a little bit of osmosis in here. It's coming out slowly but surely, and the easiest way to get that out so far by hand was with this brush, just going in circles every time. And it seems like you do it and nothing happens, but then the next time you come back, it's like you go like that, there's a whole bunch of it just flakes off. So it seems like you got to kind of loosen it leave it, and then come back and do it again if you get a little bit of water on there. Take some of the water out of there. Make a big mess, but it takes even more off. Going over the entire boat with a dry brush like this, let's say you're done, you've got enough wax on it, but boat's starting to get a little bit rough. Just go over the entire boat. You see it works, any wax that's there, it works it in. Any osmosis or anything like that, it picks it out a bit. There, it's a little bit dirtier, but like I say, you would do this after you pretty much hose it off or whatever. You don't want to work the dirt in there too much, but I can guarantee as soon as I hose this thing, which will probably be tomorrow because it's getting too late in the day, all that's going to come out. But now I got a protective coat of wax on there, and like here where it's dry, you see that's really dry there. I'm just doing a little bit, just a little bit like that. Work that wax in. It's a bit dry, but see if we can get a bit. Yeah, I can get a shine on that. I don't know if I'm getting it on here, but it doesn't take much. So here's dull. It's very dull, and again, now it's not so dull. And if they get torn up, it doesn't matter. This is the biggest problem with trying to use a buffer in spots like this, is you just can't get it in there. Just that little bit. Now that's protected by the sun, from the sun a bit, but you can get in everywhere with these little rags. So it's just a good use for them. And they apply wax. There's just so much wax on it that it just naturally applies wax everywhere you use it. And you could use the same one until it doesn't have quite so much dust in it. But the thing is that, yeah, that dust is the wax. That's what it is. It's the dry wax on there. So you can even put a shot of wax on there like this if you want to add more, if you think you need more. But when it's shiny, you really don't have to add much wax, because when you have to add wax, here's what you're going to see. You get rain or water on it, okay? If the deck is dry like 2 seconds after you put water on it, it means the fiberglass is sucking up the water, and you don't want that. But if you see beads on the, like it's like a half a day later, unless it's in the beaming sun, that let's say I was to hose this right now and I came back tomorrow morning, there were still beads of water on top of the deck. Little beads of water that doesn't look like it's wet. It just looks like there's just somebody threw beads on there of water. You know that's sitting on top of the wax. That's what you want. That means that's when your deck is protected. Now the problem you get is, especially when a boat sits in the sun like this, I'm going to have to wrap this up really quick here, but when a boat sits in the sun like this, the gel coat gets dried out, especially on an older boat like this. This boat is almost as old as I am. It's nearly 40 years old, so I'm a little older than that, but the deck gets dried out, it becomes porous. Once it becomes porous, it sucks on water. If I were to drill a little hole and get one of those suction plungers, I would be pulling water out of this, guaranteed. And this could happen to a boat that's like 2 years old. It's just, once you got the gel coat down, the whole point of keeping it clean and buffed up and constantly rubbing it down and stuff like that and adding wax is so that it protects the gel coat so that water doesn't get in there. And because when water gets in there, that's when it rots. Like this boat has a little bit of osmosis and stuff like that in places like that, but it's coming off. Like I say, every time I do this, it seems to take a little bit more off. And I don't even need to add water on it or to do it all the time. It's just sometimes just dry cleaning the boat really goes a long way. So that's a couple of tips, and again, you can use those. I use it again. You can see how I used it against this part of the railing. Still a little bit dull over there, but you know, do all your railings. Just use them as rags. But the benefit you get is that they're so saturated with wax that every time you use it, you're applying, even if it's a dry form of wax on there. One thing, when the boat becomes slippy, again, things don't stick to it. Right now, because all the trees are getting their leaves on it, the problem I'm running into is what everybody does. You can see all the little buds of they keep raining down over the boat overnight. So I just sweep the boat off overnight. I still got a little bit left there to clean up, but once it's clean, and again, if you have access to a pressure washer, it becomes even easier, that type of thing. But it really makes the boat a lot more pleasurable when you do it. Now the big problem is you have to you can have one rag to use to apply like that, the used bonnet to apply, and you can have a cleaning rag just to wipe the dust off after, so that everybody's not full of dust. But the thing is the dust is wax, so it's you're getting an extra use out of that wax. All right, there you go. Hopefully that was helpful.